and today let's talk about Batmobiles. After all, why not? This is one of the best assets of our favorite superhero. The idea that this is a crime fighter that has his own car, his own toys. For any boy at a young age, this is big part of the dream of being Batman. The fact that you can choose if you want a specific car to go crime fighting depending of the day. And since we have decades to pick and choose what Batmobiles are our favorites, which ones we like the most, which ones we like certain parts of it and others don't, this is a video that is just too much fun to do. So let's go. Let me talk about my preferences in terms of car, and then I hope you can comment which ones are your favorites after the video, alright? So there's no specific order in this list. I'm just gonna ramble and go through movies, cartoons, comics, and toys, of course. So after the creation of Batman in the late 30s going to the 40s, the first Batmobile that he used to fight crime was just a simple car, a red convertible that didn't have any of the Bat motif, and he used to take him and Robin around. So looking today, it is very weird that he used just a car, but I do believe the comic writers didn't have any real intentions to create a Batmobile, something that was part of the character. But then little by little, the new vehicles started to have a little more Bat motif to them, starting by simple touches like just the black color, until suddenly in Detective Comics 156, the Batman decided to rebuild the car with the Bat motif. And this was probably the beginning of the legend of the Batmobile. And boy, do I love this design. First, there is one element that I think is essential to make it a Batmobile: the Batfriends. Those wings that are in the back of the car and became much more prominent in the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher movies. Obviously, we know that the future cars would lose this little detail, but I think it's something that all the Bat cars should have, whether they are a little more discreet or big and exaggerated. Personally, I prefer big and exaggerated, and this car has this. But it also has another element that I love about Batmobiles, and I think all the cars should have, but this is just me. I think many people don't like it. That is the Bat face in the front of the car. I absolutely love this design that puts the Bat face in the center of the headlights, and if the eyes of the face are the headlights, even better. In the end of this video, I'm gonna say my top 3 Batmobiles, and there is a high chance that this one is among them. Maybe the only flaw is the fact that there is just one fin, and I prefer that the cars have 2 fins, just like bat wings in a real bat. And this black version is very cool, but I also like this blue version in a toy that is fantastic. Also, there is this idea that this one is very cumbersome and big, which I like very much, but with time during the 40s, they started to make the cars a little smaller. I like this other version with 3 fins, even though I don't think it should have a center fin, but since it is discreet, I like it. And only with time, things started to get a little more sleek. Plus, the cars started to get a little more color. We have this version from the 70s in comic books that it's quite pleasant to the eyes for me. I like the mixture of blues and blacks. I don't mind if it is not just black. The face in the front of the car could be better. I prefer that there is a real metal face in front of the car, but the painting looks fine as well. There are other versions in black. I don't remember if there is anything similar to this in the comics. But there's also a more sports car version with the same blue and black color that is not a convertible. And even though it's okay to look at, I don't like it so much because it doesn't have the assets that I like, the fins and the big metal face in front of the car. There are some other versions in toys that I like pretty much, like this version that is completely black with big fins behind. And also something that I think is very interesting, although impractical if Batman really existed, that is this 2 cockpits covered by glass. I think the communication between Batman and Robin would be a little difficult with this, and I also don't like the connection between the fins, but it's a cool design anyway. Then we finally arrive at the 60s with the classic Batmobile from the Adam West TV show, and I'm gonna be honest and probably break some of the people who are watching's hearts now. I'm not a big fan of this car. I like the fact that it's full of gadgets, and personally I love when there is this mix of red and black in the Batmobile. But the design of the car itself doesn't really pleases me, doesn't really have the Bat motif that I like so much. And I know this is the one that inspired all the following Batmobiles, especially by the rocket behind the car, but I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. Probably because I'm not a huge fan of the 66 TV show. I know it's part of many people's childhood, and I do have a vague memory of it playing on TV, but honestly, when I tried to rewatch recently and I bought all the DVDs with the whole show, it just doesn't sink in anymore. All the episodes are basically the same in structure, and even though I watched until the third season, I just couldn't go along. But anyway, I digress. My real introduction to Batman was with Tim Burton's 89's movie, so I don't know if it is about nostalgia or love for this movie. This, yes, is the perfect Batmobile for me. I think for many people, the Michael Keaton's one is just perfection in all its elements. If somebody told me to design a new Batmobile, I would do it, but I would do it with a lot of regret, because for me, the 89's movie production really cracked the code in designing this vehicle. The fins in the back are the perfect size. I absolutely think they are the most perfect fins ever created. Even though the front doesn't have a bat face, the whole shape and tubular thing looks badass. I love the headlights in this car, I always did, with the yellow bright light and the shape of it. The long front, it's gorgeous, and I love the fact that to enter the car, there is this cover that slides forward, and I always loved to open this as a kid in my toy car to put some Batman toy inside. So this is perfection, and following this car in the 1992 Batman the Animated Series, we had another version of the Batmobile that is pretty good as well. I'm not sure if I like the design that has all these straight lines, especially in the fins at the back of the car, but the front of it is very badass, and I always loved the sound of the car in the cartoon. The roar of the engine is pretty cool. Plus there was an improvement, at least for me, done in the comics in a recent one called White Knight, where they have a Batman the Animated Series Batmobile there, but with the bat face in front of it, so I really liked that touch. The only thing I think is strange is that this car works for the cartoon, but if you take it to real life, it becomes a little weird, especially with this small cockpit. But anyway, there was a redesign in Batman the New Animated Series, which all the characters suffered a redesign. And the Batmobile got a drastic redesign where it was very much simplified. Gone were all the lines and the details, and it became just black and kinda bland in the cartoon. But here comes the catch. Recently I found some pictures of this car built in real life, and I gotta say, I love this design. I mean, I don't know, there's something about the simplicity of the lines and the whole idea that the car is just black and the fins are discreet. The shiny surface that the cartoon doesn't really have really makes it much more cool. It looks like the right car to take for a night out crime fighting. If I were Batman, I don't know, man, I think I would choose this one as my Batmobile. I know it's bizarre because the Batmobile from Keaton is the best one, but I don't know, this looks a lot more practical. Anyway, in the comics during the 90s, the Batmobile also suffered many redesigns, and they tried to make something a little more futuristic to some of the comics from the Nightfall era. I remember this design from that comic, and to be honest, it was really strange for me, but I kinda like it. I don't know about the bright blue color and the yellow bat, but there was something interesting about the fact that it didn't really look like a car. It was more like a hovering machine moving through the streets of Gotham. And then we come back to the movies with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Two cars that I don't think many fans appreciate, and to be honest, yes, they have many flaws. The Batman Forever one doesn't even come close to the Keaton's Batmobile, but I do appreciate the attempt of making it something a little more Giger-like. If you don't know, H.R. Giger is the designer of Alien, and all his arts had this biomechanical element. So yeah, the Batman Forever one, looking at a certain angle, it kinda looks cool, but at the same time, I'm not sure about the center fin in the car. Like I said, I don't like when it has a center fin, especially that big, because many times during the movie itself, the whole thing wobbles on top of the car. So besides this, it looks like if Batman went over some low passage, he would lose a whole chunk of his top. Plus the blue lights inside showing the engine, I don't know, I'm not very fond of it. And then we have the Batman and Robin one, which I think is the one that people most hate. But I gotta be honest, there's something about this car that I really like. I hate the colors, of course, the whole colorful lights on the front of it. But if you take this picture that I'm gonna show, all the lights are turned off, and you just have the long front, the big fins in the back. I don't mind the solo seat in the middle of it. It really looks cool and kinda simple, which I really appreciate. I like simplicity. I don't like over-design. That is something that we're gonna see in other Batmobiles ahead. So between the Batman Forever one and this one, I stick with this one. And speaking about over-design, let's go to the Nolan franchise with the Tumbler. And the Tumbler is a polemic one. I don't know if many people like this design. I actually think it's interesting the fact that it's a tank or is a battle vehicle made to be resistant, to crush things, to go through walls. It really gives the impression that Batman is protected inside of it. Now, the design itself really goes against everything that I really like in Batmobiles. There's no bat motif anywhere in it. The over-design is all over the car. I think the back of it is a little more nice to me. I love the big wheels with the rockets in the middle, but it's just not Batmobile enough for me. And if we talk about the Tumbler, of course, we have the extra asset of the Batpod. That this one is the total opposite of over-design, is really bland. I never really liked this bike. This is a problem that I'm gonna mention a little further in the video, that I think the car must really fit with the Batman that is driving it. And I don't know, the Tumbler maybe fits a little more with Christian Bale's suit of the Batman, but the Batpod doesn't fit with him at all. Even though the idea of the car that transforms into a bike is really cool, and we had that in Batman Returns with the Batmissile, and that, yes, that is a very cool transformation. I love the Batmissile, even though we had only seconds of it on screen ever, and we may never have it again. Anyway, let's jump quickly back to the cartoons, because in that time we had the Batman Beyond cartoon, and since it is a very futuristic cyberpunk cartoon, we had a futuristic Batmobile that it's almost a bat ship, right? Because it flies. And I really don't like this car as well. For some reason, the design of it is strange, because even though it can be a cool futuristic design for something else, it doesn't really take me to anything Batman-like. It looks like a futuristic gun or something like that. I know, it's a futuristic design. It's supposed to be edgy and slick, but at the same time, I think they could have worked a little more of the bat motif into it. I'll tell you one thing that I like pretty much, that is the blends of black and red in the car. I love the mix of these two colors in anything Batman related. And then we had the Batman cartoon from 2004. That even though it's a cartoon that I really love, the Batmobile here, it's awful. Again, they tried too hard to make it sleek and edgy, and it's none of it. It looks like a toy car from any other brands or something like that. Even with the redesign that they did in the middle of the cartoon, there wasn't any improvements at all, at least in my opinion. Then we get to the Brave and the Bold Batmobile that I like very much, actually. It scores all the right points almost with me. We have the big face on the front, the mixture of black and red. I just don't like the center fin, but okay. But generally speaking, is much more a Batman car for me. Close to that, we also had the cartoon Beware the Batman, which I really love as well. But that Batmobile, I'm not gonna even waste my time because it just looks like a race car. Going now to the games, which I didn't mention very much, we had the Arkham series, which was some of the greatest games ever created. I absolutely love those games, but the Batmobiles created for them, Oh god. I mean, the one from Arkham Asylum and Arkham City is not that bad, but it looks like they took another random car and just redesigned it to look a little more like a Batmobile. But the one from Arkham Knight, which has a big portion of the game driving this car, talk about over-design in this life. Come on, this looks like a big armadillo that is just, I don't know what it is. It's just too cumbersome, too over-designed, doesn't have any bat motif in it. I don't know, I just don't like it. I don't care if the vehicle is big and tank-like. For example, the classic one from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns is pretty cool, even though it doesn't fit with that Batman character at all. In terms of design, I mean. But I would love to see that vehicle in a Mad Max deserted and post-apocalyptic world scenario. Kinda like the Zack Snyder nightmare that we saw in Batman vs Superman. Speaking about Zack Snyder, let's talk about the BVS Batmobile. And this one for me is a mixed bag, just like the movie itself. There are some things I like and some that I don't. For example, the over-design here is a problem. But at the same time, the shape of the car really pleases me, especially in the side profile. I like how sleek and thin it is. And speaking about a Batmobile that doesn't fit the Batman character it belongs to, here the case is the contrary. The Batman doesn't fit the car almost. But I think it's cool. It's almost like a cross between the Batmobile from Bat-Kitten and the Tumbler, which is an interesting concept for that movie. In the Justice League, it suffered a redesign with a little more armor to become more War Battle Batmobile, which didn't change very much, but it's a good addition. And finally, we come to the most recent movie Batmobile from The Batman with Robert Pattinson. This car just doesn't fit with the character from the movie in terms of design, because the Batsuit is very over-designed. There are a lot of details in it, and then we have this car that is very simple. It doesn't have any of the bat motif, no extravagancy, no big lines and big details, and it goes against everything that I believe should be a Batmobile. But here's the catch, I gotta say, I love this car. I don't know, I just gotta say, I think this car is a hell of a car. I would love to take this thing to drive at night. And based on the concept of the movie that Bruce Wayne built this car by himself, it totally works. So yeah, I don't really think it fits the Batman as a character, but I love the car. I love the front of it with this huge bumper that is ready to go through anything. But let's go to my top 3 Batmobiles from this list. And in third place, I gotta go with the first redesign from the 1940s with the big fin on the back and the big face on the front, the black, robust car. I love it. I love that design, and for that era, it works completely. My second choice will go, believe it or not, for the redesign of the animated series. Like I said, there's something about the simplicity of this car and the lines, and the fact that in real life, it has this shiny black color all over it. That would be my Batmobile if I were Batman. And finally, in first place, of course, there's no other option, right? The Bat-Kitten Batmobile from '89 is absolutely unbeatable. Plus, it is the car design that I believe the best Batman would use in his crime fighting. So there you go, this is the list of Batmobiles that I love or don't like or like so-so. And what about you? Comment below, what do you think about this list? Which ones do you like more or you don't like? Which ones would be your top 3 Batmobiles from all time? Don't forget to comment, and also don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you like to see Bat content. And I know you do. Not only that, but DC Universe content that we know we're gonna have a lot in the future. So if I were you, I would subscribe right away if you're not subscribed yet. Thank you so much. See you in the next Bat video, and bye-bye.